Turn it over to Alexandra. I want to give a little bit of an intro because I know Alex very well. I've known her for several years now in the industry, and she is excellent at networking and building relationships, and certainly a leader in a lot of the industry organizations that I've been a part of. And she'll get more into that, but this is a great leader, and we're going to learn so much from her today. So I'm really excited to get started. So Alex, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. So nice to be here again with you all. All right, transformational leadership. So this is a license or class. This is if you have, you need CEU credits, I definitely will be able to give you those. Make sure that you do give us your CAM license number, and I'll be sending a certificate to everyone once we complete this class. My trusty mousey there. All right. Again, my name is Alexandra Barr. I am the president of Exandra Marketing. We are a full-service marketing firm in South Florida, helping businesses grow organically. We help companies get opportunities and really grow their business. We also have our digital marketing, social media, and PR side. We're helping businesses like Mass District do some PR, public relations work here in South Florida. So just a little background about me. I know that Jessica kind of read my bio a little, but I've been married for 15 years. I believe it's really important to, for you to know who's up here in front of you. I've been in marketing and business development for about 20 years now, and mostly in leadership roles. I come from more of the high level corporate marketing and sales expert. Life Work Leadership class, I've taken that, graduated in 2016. So anyone that's on the call, I usually get a few people that have taken this course. It's just life-changing. And I'm really just honored to have been able to be part of that. Graduated from Tom Foster's Leadership Fundamental class. Like I said, this is a state credit class. I did take the, of course, regulation for licensed leadership. President of Commercial Real Estate for Women. I currently serve on the board. In fact, yesterday I just did a presentation on the power of networking to this group. It was wonderful. It was our first in-person meeting, which we were a little nervous. We didn't know people still wanted to be out there networking, but we sold out. We had 50 people in person. And of course, we followed all the guidelines, wore a mask, and it really went well. So an amazing group there. Also president of International Facility Manager Organization in South Florida. Currently, I'm on the board of National Women of Roofing, and very proud of this here. I was honored 100 Outstanding Women in Broward County. This is an amazing accomplishment back in 2017. And what I do in my full-time job, because I don't have enough going on, right, is I am the founder and president of Exandra Marketing. So just wanted to give you a little bit of background on who's in front of you. So like I mentioned, it's a state credited class. I'll also be emailing you the course evaluation. This is something that the state requires us to get some feedback just to understand how we did in this class. And again, the feedback is really appreciated because it makes us better as speakers and making sure that the information that we're providing is valuable to you in your career. So let's get started. So just kind of going over some of the things that you'll be learning today. By the end of this course, we would like you to walk away with how to be a leader with a vision, not just a manager. Look beyond the leadership stereotypes. Understand transformational leadership. And this is something I'm very passionate about. I feel that the world needs more leaders, right? In order to get more leaders, us as leaders need to transform our people to become better leaders for the future. And this is what we do in the workspace, right? We look for these leaders to be our next in line. In order to do that is to identify them. We're going to learn that today. Influence with passion and empower others to act. How do you get people excited to do the work? Increase performance of your team by setting up objectives, expectations, and goals. And communicate with confidence and clarity so you are always understood. Sometimes we think people understand us, right, by just some of the direction we give them, but really having that clear, concise communication and getting that confirmation that the task that you have given them really makes sense and they understand it clearly. And then 7, last but not least, use creative problem solving and decision-making methods. All right. So what is leadership, right? People use that word a lot. There's leadership classes, everything's leader. You have executive leadership roles in companies. But what is the word leadership? So leadership can bring mind a variety of images. For example, it's a little funny, political leader, right? Those are leaders pursuing a passion and a personal cause. An explorer cutting a path through the jungle for the rest of his groups to follow. That's a person with a leader, right? He's like, I got this. An executive developing his or her company's strategy to beat the competition. So I think that's where we're here for. It's really to hopefully in your role, you want to continue to move up within your career, whatever that looks like. But leadership plays a big role in those some of those things in terms of your personal strengths and weaknesses, but also how do you develop other people around you is so important. And that's a huge characteristic of a leader. So let's define it a little bit more. Okay, transformational leadership is an effective leader, is a person who does the following: creates an inspired vision for the future, motivates and inspires individuals to engage with that vision, very difficult to do, manages delivering of the vision, right? Because now it's time to deliver it, but we got to manage it and see how it went along. And then coaches and builds a team so that it's more effective at achieving the vision, because that's very important, the coaching part of it. Leadership brings together the skills needed to do these things.
So, Alex, actually, now that you're on that slide, we do have a question, and I think it's relevant.
Awesome.
Sorry to interrupt you so early, but people are like really engaged.
I
So,
love this. I love this. And just to touch on that, please, this is a very engaging class. So if you have questions, I don't mind stopping. So thank you for that, Jessica.
we appreciate that. So, someone asked, how do you create a desire to excel within a staff or legacy employees? So, they need that confidence, they need, that desire and just that motivation. And apparently this person or this leader is struggling to get them to where they need to be.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of it is communication, and we're going to learn about that, how to understand your employees and the direction they want to go to. A lot of time when someone's not excited is because there's something missing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that so that was an amazing question, because that is so important. How can you transform somebody that doesn't really, you don't feel like that they're there, right? That they even want to be transformed. So we're going to kind of learn that from the front. I mean, think about it. You don't want to waste your time with someone that doesn't want to be there. Everyone has different goals. But as leaders, we have to make sure that we're giving them the tools to succeed. And sometimes people don't understand what their road to success really looks like. And we don't demonstrate that probably well enough for them to understand. So sitting down and having those upfront conversations really kind of take that, like, how do you do it? They almost, they'll tell you, if they want to be there and which way they want to go by you providing them the tools. I hope that answered. I know it's a little bit long-winded, that one.
No, but that makes perfect sense. I think that you also need to see that that they're aligned with their job roles. Sometimes people are in job roles that don't satisfy them. So I think as a leader, you kind of have to get creative, like how to keep them engaged. Sure. As well, like you said, because maybe they're bored or maybe they just don't have the right tools to succeed. It could be a combination of both. So I totally agree. I see it often enough. Yeah.
And I have a quick story for that. So I have someone on my team just recently. She called me and she's like, Alex, I do love the business development side of the business. However, it's just not for me. I'm not happy. I don't feel like I'm excited about doing the job. And I said, wow, you were so excited. I'm a little surprised. Here I am being a leader, not even knowing my own teammate is not happy. But I mean, she still performed. She did what she had to do, but inside she wasn't happy. And I said to her, I said, wow, we are launching our public relations division, which we were just in the middle. We've been doing it for the last year. And that's what she graduated with, like a bachelor's in marketing and PR. So it was perfect timing. And I said to her, I said, I want to commend you, number one, that you had the courage to come to me and have this conversation, because had you not, I wouldn't be able to even give you another position in the company, right? Right. So sometimes I think leaders, we have to empower our people to make sure that they feel comfortable coming to us when things are not good.
Great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just a quick
Yeah,
thing.
because if I'm scared and I don't feel like my supervisor is approachable, I'm never going to talk to them about, where I envision myself. And instead of giving them an opportunity to, you know, uh, like meet my needs, I'll quit and go somewhere
Right,
else. And they've
right,
lost a great employee. And meanwhile, they could have just adjusted certain things, but I didn't feel like I could communicate with them. So that's really important, Alex. Thank you for mentioning that.
absolutely. So a little bit more on transformational leaders. And again, ask away. I think these are great. This is very hands-on. I want to make sure that we really dig into this. So transformational leaders are often described as mentors and role models. And that's really a big role in this transformational leader style of leadership, is really to mentor and be a role model. And again, be approachable, right? For people to be able to feel comfortable with going to you for things, but also want to work harder for you because now you're giving them direction. So transformational leaders are, to me, the future, right? And this is where I was so passionate about doing this class and getting it credited, because I'm like, every organization needs this type of leadership. And we're going to talk about managers versus leadership, which often are, we kind of misunderstand the two roles, but we're going to learn that about that. But this is the passion that I have, is to make sure that we get more leaders thinking on this high level to transform their people, because we need to keep growing companies, and you need to move up, right? You need to move up. Who takes your spot, right? So this is just a little bit more on that. Did you have a question? No?
Yeah, I do. I do have a question here that came up, but if you want, I'll wait till it's a little more relevant. If you want to go
Okay.
through the slides.
So we're gonna go through some 4 elements. If a leader wants to inspire, nurture, and develop their followers. So these are just some of the traits. So we're gonna talk about idolize, influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration, which will really all result to performance beyond expectation. So we're gonna go through each one of them. So we'll start with the first one, which is idolizing consideration. I'm sorry, individualized consideration. This transformational leadership style also involves offering support and encouragement to individuals, followers. So these are the people that are going to just be very supportive, foster and supportive to relationships. Transformational leaders keep lines of communication, just like as we spoke about a little while ago, where that person felt comfortable enough to come to me to have that conversation, which they just weren't feeling too good about where they're at. So this type of leadership style, they play a big role in just supporting the team. And when the teams feel like you support them and like have their back, they're going to work harder, and they know like if they make a mistake, you support it, and you know that you're going to fix it. It's not like they're going to lose their job. So it's a really nice way of coaching. The next one is inspirational motivation. It's one of my favorites. I really love to inspire people. So transformational leaders have a clear vision that they are able to articulate to followers. These leaders are also able to help followers experience the same passion and motivation to fulfill their goals. So I think the question before, the first question was really how to keep people going. This is it. Having that clear vision and being able to articulate it to your team, and having them feel the same passion. See, I believe in putting people in the right roles. That's number one, right? If you're not in the right role, you're not going to feel good, no matter how your leader motivates you, right? So making sure you're identifying people and putting them in the right role so they can be motivated to exceed. All right. Intellectual stimulation, a lot of these big words, right? Tongue twisters. Transformational leaders not only challenge the status quo, they also encourage creativity among others. So this is another great thing for your team, where you allow them to have input and be creative. And say you're in a meeting or you're coming up with a new project, allowing them to feel that their creativity and their input really counts, right? You're allowing them to be part of the team and be part of that project, which I'm telling you, once you allow people to feel like they're part of it, things change, right? People get excited, and it's letting them say, okay, this was your idea too. Let them contribute to these ideas. So love this style. So individualized consideration, these transformational leadership also involves offering support and encouragement to the individual followers in order to foster a supportive relationship. Did I do that twice? I feel like I did that twice. No, I think that's it. So it gives you direct recognition and unique contributions for each follower. So this one here is really more of a support person that's supportive, similar to the other one where it shares ideas, contributes to each of their followers. So gives recognition. People want to know how they're doing. We're going to talk about that later. If you won't believe how many people really are at work right now and saying to themselves, I wonder if I'm doing a good job, right? How am I doing? Because my boss, my leader hasn't told me. I haven't even had an evaluation. I don't know how I'm doing. I think I'm doing okay. So to me, that feeling is very confusing because how can you be better if you don't know where you're at today, right? How do you grow? How do you get to that next level? So good leaders definitely stop and do these types of evaluations, whether it's quarterly, twice a year, or once a year. But it's really important to give direction of where the person's at.
Yeah, Jim Freeman actually made that comment. He was saying how important the evaluations are, and they truly are. And sometimes the evaluations are a great opportunity to encourage self-awareness, right?
Sure.
Like, where do you think you need to improve, or where do you think you're doing well? And I know, like at Castle Group, we have something called the daily huddles, and this is mandatory for all of our sites. And the manager is supposed to have a 5 to 15 minute huddle. And one of the things that we coach the managers on is use that as an opportunity to praise who's done a great job, like give recognition. Sometimes we think that it's just about money or it's just about, hours, but some people stay just because they feel like they're a part of a team and they're being recognized in front of their peers. And that goes a really, really, really long way. Like giving praise and not withholding it can mean a lot to an employee.
Absolutely. It's so important. How do you keep people going and feeling excited, and publicly too? Those public praises go a long way. Absolutely. All right. Let me just get out of there. Okay. So how becoming a transformational leader? Hold on. I feel like give me 2 seconds here. Yeah, we're good.
Oh, and Alex, before you move on, Demetrius had a question here, and I was waiting until you were finished, and to bring it up. But this is more about managing up, right? So he is asking when obviously you have your team as a manager, but then you also have your board of directors who are almost like your like your bosses, right? They're kind of your supervisors. Right. So just the idea of managing up, like how can you lead them and persuade them, because they're looking to you for the answers, but at the same time they're still your supervisors. So he's asking really what is the significance of proper leadership and what kind of tools you can use in order to get them on board and persuade them with your visions and goals, because the manager knows how to take them there, right? But how do you get buy-in from the board?
Right. I mean, I think having good information, I think a lot of times, and I've been around a lot of boards, the confusion, I think we spoke about that just a little while ago, just kind of how you have to play that leadership role within a board. Ultimately, I know a lot of boards are the ones that are making those big decisions. However, it's important for you to bring facts. I think that's what it is. A lot of people in these boards are just, again, you're the expert, right? You're the one that's coming in to try to bring everyone together, and whatever it is that you're working on, which is typically a project to make that property better, right? Keep everything clean and the property good and smooth. Whatever it is that you're working on, how do you convince them is you having that leadership and making sure that you're showing up the same way. And I kind of am cheating on this presentation a little bit because these questions are amazing, but we're going to learn how to show up and be consistent with who you are and what you can add and bring to the table. Where I see leaders sometimes fall short is they're not taking that like assertive approach where I am the expert, I can help you. And then when there is chaos within it, making sure you're the one that is not emotionally attached to that. You're looking from the outside, because sometimes leaders get caught up in the emotion.
Mm,
You see
yeah.
that? Like, it happens
I
a lot.
love that. Yeah, because the board members can get very emotional, right? Because it's their home. They have that personal attachment, which is perfectly
Absolutely.
understandable. But as a manager, you have to be kind of like the eye of the storm. So that makes a
Yes.
lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so just yeah, and that you're gonna get more to that question, answers to that question as we move on, for sure.
And Alex, what do you think about, because sometimes I also wonder, I feel like managers need to sometimes like tap into their inner sales people too, right? Because like you need to be a persuader, and you need to have a strategy when you come up with ideas, and you need to know your audience and how you're going to position that angle. If a board member has these sensitivities, right? Like, how do you play to that to make sure that they feel comfortable, and like bringing that emotional intelligence when you're bringing about a new idea and things like that is going to work. But again, how do we get the board to buy into it? Because essentially that's what's going to make you successful.
Well,
So
your personalities too, understanding who your teammates are, because you're a property manager within that organization or that condo. That is the board members that are there. So knowing who they are, sometimes we don't take the time to really understand each person's role on the board. We kind of just oversee. So knowing how to speak to these people, right? What is the trigger point? How persuasion is the key point of it is understanding the other person. How can you persuade me to do something if you don't know my personality, right? You're going to know what triggers me, what can get me to say yes, right? So that's part of leadership, understanding your audience, and they're truly your audience. Board members, they're the people that you have to go to run things by, right? To make, am I right?
yeah,
To make decisions. So there, you need to get to know them, and that is playing a transformational leadership role, right?
right.
Because you're looking beyond just what you need to get done. You're looking now, you have to have the people skills. You have to understand how to talk to each person and how they respond to things.
Right.
I have it in here, but have you ever received an email from someone and it bothers you all day and you're like, whoa, but that person is just who they are. They're not meaning to be rude to you and shout at you. That email is shouting out disrespect, and you're feeling like, what did I do? And it bothers you all day. But if you knew that personality type of who is sending you that email, it would not bother you as much, right?
Right. You would be detached from it.
You read
You
attach.
take
And
it
that's
so
the
personal.
emotional aspect of it. And that's where leadership got to kind of disconnect that emotional side of it
Yeah.
and show
That's
up
great.
consistently every day.
Awesome.
So here we go. We're just, it goes right into it. So it's perfect leeway here. Identify individual strengths and weaknesses, develop an inspiring vision for the future, motivate everyone to buy in for your vision. So that was part of the question. Motivating people to buy into your vision is having the information and being prepared to share that information and be excited about it. Be excited about that information that you're sharing to get that buy-in. Manage and involve yourself in the delivery, be part of it. Don't just, take you out of the equation. Reinforce your relationship with the team, trust and loyalty, right? People, if they trust you, you're gonna persuade them, right? If they feel like this is the go-to person, I feel like they show up the same all the time, they're consistent with their message, they're not emotional when things are going AWOL, they're not responding in a way where it's adding fuel to the fire. They're the people that are big thinkers, they're visionaries who are saying, okay, let's hold up, and they're finding solutions to every situation. Now people are going to get drawn to you, and decisions are going to be made quickly because people start trusting you a little different. They look at you a little different because the way you present yourself and you approach situations, not from that emotional attachment. Makes sense?
Yeah.
So a little quote here. I love this. It says, the word leader and leadership are often used incorrectly to describe people who are actually managing. These individuals may be highly skilled, good at their jobs, and valuable in their organizations, but they just make them excellent managers, not leaders. So although to me, even though you're a manager, right, you can still have leadership skills, right? you can make decisions on that leadership skills where you're thinking more big picture and
Yeah.
not making decisions day to day and just checking things off your task. And that's typically what managers do. So this class is really to take you to that next level of saying, okay, this is what we do, but I'm going to start thinking on a higher level, not just on the checking off each task as I go, getting more involved and looking more at the big picture of
Yeah.
things versus just, yeah.
And Alex, that's such a big complaint. When boards and associations come to me and they say, "Hey, we're looking at Casa Group," like one of the main complaints they have is like, our manager's okay, but they're just not a leader. And it's like missing. And what happens is that if the manager doesn't show up as a leader, then the board doesn't have confidence.
Right.
They start to micromanage because they don't trust their manager, right? And now it creates kind of like a dysfunctional environment. But if that manager would just step into that leadership role, right,
Correct.
and manifest that confidence, it would change like the dynamics of the whole association. Even the board would probably start to respond differently.
Right. Well, that's how and think about it in your own life, right? That goes on for everything. It's funny how we change when we're in a different role, but you do it at home, you do it to your children, you do it in relationships, you do it with your friends. Having that confidence and showing up with being strong, people look at you different, right? You have to be, you can't show up and not have that leadership because that takes away from a little bit of your value. People are going to just say, oh, they're not taking it seriously, or they're just going to do what's asked of them, not more. And leaders go, like I said, it's more of a big picture thinker. You're always looking to create more and do more, and you find solutions, not problems, right? You're always looking for solutions and how to get things to be more efficient. When a board member or your board is seeing how you're creating opportunities, but also coming up with solutions all the time to fix things, oh my gosh, you're respected as a leader. You're looked at as the go-to person of any issue, and they trust you. They know you got it. They're gonna fix. Oh, don't worry.
Yeah,
You see that?
I have a good example. So there's a couple of things that can happen, right? So like let's say you have a board and you know that they're a little cost sensitive, but you know that making this investment is huge. So do you go in and just say, well, look, I think we should do cost benefits analysis, right? Like, can you prove, right, as a leader, these are the facts. I am the expert. This is my professional recommendation, and I have research to back it up. Like, it's very different how you present those ideas, and the leader takes it to the next step,
That's
right?
right.
And a leader isn't afraid of pushback and saying, hey, board of directors, I totally respect your opinion, but this is my professional advice, and I really think we should move this way. And
Right.
essentially, if you're a good persuader, they'll jump on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good point. I agree. All right, a little quote here. Leaders must transition from being responsible for the job to being responsible for the people who are responsible for the job, right? So
That's
we
good.
have a job, right, to do, but more importantly, we're here to serve people, right? That's what we're doing. We're here to serve people and get people to trust us, and decisions that we make daily will ultimately, be a win-win for everyone. So leaders must transition from being responsible for the job to being responsible for the people who are responsible for the job. Love it, love it, love it. Intent. So leading with intention, that goes huge into transformational leadership. Everything you do is intentional, just like Jessica said, walking into the meeting with information, and you've done your research. You're able to show them that you are a true leader and you've done the work, and this is your um, this is where you feel that the direction they should go because of your number one experience, right? You have the experience. That's why you're in your position, and just be able to be, like I said, assertive, and just be able to say it with conviction, where like this is it. But being intentional about how you walk into that room, right? Being intentional of how you set those meetings up. We're going to talk about those meetings later, but not just showing up to a meeting and not be prepared and having chaos, not just showing up and being emotional, but putting a meeting together. That's how people see you as a professional. And I know sometimes it always doesn't happen that way. You may have to have these meetings that are impromptu, like you just got to make it happen. But if you're always ready, you don't have to worry about getting ready, right? So we train ourselves to be ready. So when we get there, we're already ready and not being emotional. It's a training, it's a mindset of how we think, leaders think, versus just a manager who's just like, okay, I'm going to go there and they're going to tell me what they want. No, you're going to go in there to help get to that next level with solutions. And this is just a little analogy. It's pretty powerful, and I have a story behind it. So assessing your emotional wake. Our emotional wake as a leader is the feeling you're leaving behind. So think about a boat going through the water. The wake pushes it out and leaves as much wider ripple than the boat itself. So that's the same with leadership. So I have a story. So I was leading a big team at the time, about 20 people that were reporting to me. And this is a couple years ago, and I'm a pretty motivational leader. I would come in and I would sit with each one of my team before I would even go into my office. And it's just, I would have my bags with me and I would just stop and say, hey, how's it going, to each person before I even started my day. But one day, I remember it, I was just going through some things. And I remember getting out of my car and walking into my office, the building, and then directly to my office. And I sat there just because I was just not feeling good, right? I'm human. I wasn't feeling good. But guess what? Not a good thing for a leader, because for the next hour, I spent with people knocking on my door and I'm like, come in. And they would ask me, hey, Alex, is everything okay? Like, is everything, like, really concerned? And I was like, everything's fine. Yeah. And they would leave. Another person would come in. And then after I sat there and I said, wow, I just changed up the way I behave. I walked in to my office, which I never ever do. And it left them feeling like, wow, they're worried about if they're going to still have a job. They're worried about the company. All that was created through me just changing things up and not being consistent with my leadership style, which the number one thing as a leader, you have to be consistent. So long story short, I was just like, wow, Alex, you need to, of course, check yourself. So I share this story because it's so important. Your team's looking at you and how you behave in your good days, your bad days. As a leader, if you're taking that role, we have to be consistent with our emotions. So
The board too is looking at it. Their
the
boards
board,
too. So I have someone here who just asked, what happens when you show leadership that the board doesn't like your input and feel you are supposed to be on the passenger seat and not the driver? So, and I don't know if you would agree, Alex, but and again, Alex, I don't know if you guys know this, I'm not sure she mentioned it, but she does private coaching and development for leaders and things like that. So I just wanted to put that out there. But I imagine that, with your clients, you probably take inventory, because like, if you're a leader, people follow you. There's a sense of ease in trusting you. So I think that the gap is, to this person, if the board isn't buying in, it's because there may be gaps in how you're showing up.
how you're showing up.
Do you agree with that, or what do you think about that?
I agree 100%. It's how you're showing up. And we can't now go and undo what happened in the past. We can only move forward. So to me, if you're getting these people like push back, I would have a meeting, so just so you can move forward. Maybe have a meeting with the president and kind of say, listen, this is what I'm noticing, and just having that upfront conversation, clear and concise, and let them, the person understand that, listen, I'm here to help you. I am the expert. I've been put in this position because I have a lot of knowledge in this, industry, or however you want to say it. But there's got to be a breaking ground. You can't just show up and you want to be a leader, right? And just start being demanding when that's not how you've been showing up. Now that's going to come off cocky and it's going to have friction. So I would recommend, if you're in this situation, is to definitely call a meeting, and it could be with the whole board, and just kind of just reintroduce yourself, if you may, right? Reintroduce yourself and come up with a process and how you bring things to the table and what you do when you bring the things to the table, right? I don't just bring it to the table. I've done a lot of research before I bring things to your board. I just want you to understand what my process looks like. My process goes like this. I do my research, I do interview, whatever it is that you do, and you share. Sometimes people just need to know your process, right? They need to know how you do things so they can fit within that. So that's what I would recommend.
And also I'd go farther too. Alex, because, just being in sales, I have to be aware of my body language.
Sure.
Like I have that face where if I don't like something, my lips get tight and everybody in the room can see that someone said something I didn't like. And my body language just screams it out. So
Right.
that's one piece. And then also like just be aware of like what I'm thinking, right? Because,
Sure.
if you're already in that situation, it can be very discouraging. So when you go into the meeting, are you thinking, man, this is going to be like not
Yep.
productive again? They're just not going to listen to me. Great. Now I have to go do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are the thoughts that you're having before even showing up to this meeting? Maybe be aware of that and change that perspective, because that can change like your whole aura.
Absolutely. And that goes back to this intentional, right? Being, leading with intention, right? When you're showing up and you're telling yourself, oh my gosh, you're already kind of having, you already know what it's going to look like in your head and it's negative. Well, that's how you're going to show up. But if you go in intentionally and say, okay, this is the meeting, and have every board is different, right? And again, you have to know your board just like you have to know your people. You're managing pretty much the board. So if you're in a situation where you're managing someone in an office, it's still the same thing. You have to be intentional. You have to know what your message is and how you approach your team, and how do you approach it? When do you approach it?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. A lot of
important to know
emotional intelligence
a
involved.
lot of it.
Absolutely.
You have to know your audience, and that goes back to sales, you're saying, right? You need to know your audience. How do they respond to things? And again, just because you're the leader, you're leading this, having input is important, and giving them permission to have input is huge, right? They're going to feel like they're part of it. So creating that team environment and collaborative environment is how I've always thrived. Going in and just saying, I'm the leader and you do, that doesn't work, right? That doesn't work. And nobody wants to be around that type of leadership. But if you don't need to tell someone you're a leader if you're a true leader. And we're going to learn more about that. And by the end, your mindset's going to change, because people are just going to start looking to you as a leader, right? So if you already have some leadership skills and you just need to tweak it a little, I hope that this presentation helps you, because that is not something you need to tell people. They just should know that you're the leader. And leaders are collaborative. They bring people together. So let me skip that there. So here we talked about being consistent, right? A lot. So tracking your consistency. So I did put some, and I can send a PDF of this if you need it, or some of these worksheets, whoever wants it. But these are some things to just kind of track you being consistent and checking yourself to see, like, how do I respond to things? So tracking your consistency, it's important that you don't let your mood affect how you show up at work. To feel secure, your team needs to know that you'll be consistent and be the same every day, just like what I did. And it was like, whoa, 1 hour of non-productive, like we had no productivity for that hour, because everyone was worried because the way I showed up. Same thing going into a meeting, when you're projecting that this meeting is going to be like, you have this narrative in your head that how this meeting is going to take place and it's going to be negative again because the last one was, you're already going in and showing up in that kind of just mood, right? That energy, and it's not going to go well. So if you want to see something change, it has to change within you first, right? We can't keep doing the same things. So to see how consistent you are, use these tips to keep you on track for the next 5 days. So day one, you're going to recap your day by answering these questions. What happened? Do any interactions stand out to you? How did you feel throughout the day? Did anything happen during the day that changed your mood? So you're just going to kind of track this for the next 5 days and see like how things have changed. It's almost like journaling, which I do a lot. Journaling is an amazing way to get things out of here onto a paper so you can clear your mind and not have always have so much things going on. So now read over your notes from the past 5 days. Were you consistent with how you interacted at work, regardless of how you felt internally? Like, did your mood change how you showed up? Were there days when your mood affected how you showed up, right? So if it varied, how will you work towards being more consistent? When we write things down, or even, I mean, that's why we talked about evaluation, giving people evaluation. We just get so used to doing the same thing, we forget, right? It becomes habits and we just show up and we're really not going inward. So this allows you to go a little bit more inward, because if we're good here, we're able to inspire and impact people, right? Because we don't know what we need to work on. So these are the things that I worked on for years, and things that I put together to say, okay, how can I be more consistent? And at what point do I get triggered, right? Is it an email? Is it, a board member disagreeing with me? How did I respond during that disagreement? Did I respond, maybe I understand why you think go that way. I understand why you don't think that may work, but can you give me a moment? Let me explain to you with my professional advice. And I have a lot of experience in this. Can I kind of go over it with you and just share with you how this would probably make a little sense? Is that okay? And getting permission to be able to share your knowledge with people. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? It's not what you do, it's how you do it. So that's more the intentional of having that detaching the emotional side of it, which we do get caught out. We're human, right? During emotional times, people are like, yeah. So leaders stand out and they kind of look at the big picture and say, okay, this is not going to work. So how do I bring people together? Because at the end of the day, we need to get the job done, right? Whatever the job is, we got to get it done. And it's our jobs to get people to buy in so we can get the job done. You can't go to your boss and say, well, I couldn't really get an answer because everyone's being emotional. Well, you're the leader. You have to learn to be able to cut that noise off, right? And be able to get everyone to a place where, we all respect each other and we respect each other's opinions. And who's the true professional, right? Who has the most knowledge in that room, which will be the property manager who's put in that position to lead you. And we sometimes have to remind people of that, right? So kind of having those conversations in a way where people understand, I think that you can get a lot.
Yeah, and I also want to say that it's definitely a tall order, just because of the nature of condo association and HOA associations, and I don't want to minimize the task at hand, right? Because you have 5, 7, 9 board members, and then you have a full team, and then you have the corporate company if you're not self-managed. So it's a lot of managing upward and downward, and it's extraordinarily difficult and complex. And by no means are we trying to we understand how difficult it is what I'm trying to say. Like, managing associations is incredibly difficult, but it's like New York. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right? Because if you can manage to keep your team motivated and then also get the board on board, that was funny, get the board on board, then and keep your association rather functional, you've done an excellent thing. There's always room for improvement in any case. So our hats are off to you. There's a reason why I'm on the sales side of property management and I'm not actually on site. I've done that. It's like precisely because I know how difficult it is. So our hats are off to you. I'm sure you're all doing a very good job, and we hope that this just gives you some tips that you can apply within the next couple of weeks and see if you see any changes.
Yeah, these self-assessments that you do on yourself, to me, are the greatest tools, because if you don't know, then how can you respond? So I'm always that's why I love teaching this, because I'm always looking to go inward. I never like say it's someone else, but trying these, just understanding how you respond to certain things can really help make
Taking responsibility, pretty much. You're taking self-responsibility.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're the one that needs to, to get it done. And then carving out thinking time, right? We don't have enough time in a day for thinking. And I will encourage you all to make an appointment with yourself, even if it's for 10, 15 minutes a day, a couple times a day, to just think. Okay. With leadership comes a lot of new responsibilities. So you're getting, like Jessica said, you're managing, you have so much going on. And if we don't stop and really have that thinking time and have clarity, how do you move on to the next, right? And sometimes we show up with frustration and we're on overload. And because we're on overload, we show up in that way and people feel it, right? People feel it and things don't come across as you want them to come across because you're just on overload. So again, I recommend taking some time off. I have an appointment with myself daily. It's in the morning. It's the best and the number one most important appointment of my day because it's with myself. And it allows me to think of what I need to get done. I also look at what conversations that are uncomfortable that I need to have. And I usually go for those first because it's very important to get those out of the way. If it lingers, it just frustrates you more, right? It kind of is in a way, it's right in the front of you, of you, and you have all these other things you need to deal with, and you're subconsciously always just thinking about it. I got to get it done. So I encourage you to have an appointment with yourself, whether it's once or twice a day, for thinking time, and then look over your schedule, what needs to get done. And then again, those uncomfortable conversations, please just knock them out. Get them over with. They're never fun, but once you get them over with, you can move on with your day. So this is a tip that I do daily, because we all want an A team, right? We want an A team for us to be better. It's so easy when you have an A team, everyone's operating at the same level, strong and motivated, everyone's moving, everyone, is respecting each other and just after the same thing. And as
And then you
leaders,
wake
you
up
want
from
an
the
A team.
dream. You were having a great dream.
It is the dream team. I love it. So how do you get that, right? We have to know personalities, and this is really going to help you understand different personalities. And I want that definitely open up the chat here. So I would love to, learn the audience, like which one is more analytical, like, controllers. I want to know who, your emotional intelligence in a sense, like where are you on this graph? So let's start with the first one, that's blue. So make a note if you have a pen by you, take some notes to see if this is who you are. You're analytical. Are you brave enough to try new ways of doing things? So it's if it's no, what can you change? Are you decisive when making choices? Do you find it easy to be enthusiastic and encourage your team? So just take a moment to kind of like just look at this, see if you're blue. Controllers. Okay, let's go on that.
And
All
feel
right.
free to chat in, what you think
Yeah.
you are.
If you think you're a control, if the first one, say that's me, and then maybe a little bit of why you think that's you. So the red, do you remain patient when you find situations or people annoying? It's hard. Are you empathetic about how others may feel in response to your actions? Are you open to considering other people's ideas or ways of doing things? All right, so the green here, can you make tough decisions when it counts? Woof, it's a tough one. We've been talking a lot about that. Do you believe you treat everyone on your team fairly? Can you act without being concerned that the decision will make you unpopular? We talked about that too, right? Sometimes as leaders, we can't make everyone happy, but you have to make the right decisions for the company.
Yeah,
Do you think
I like to be liked, so I struggle with that one for sure.
Yeah. Do you think you're efficient with your time? We just talked about like time, putting some time to think, and then time management is a whole other course, but we won't get into that. But that's important that we're using our time.
And Jim here says that he's analytical, so we got an analytical personality.
Oh, okay, very nice. And we got the yellow enthusiast. So do you give enough details for detail-oriented people on your team? This is something I struggle with and I work on a lot because I move fast, and I try to give direction, and sometimes it's just too fast. So I have to know who's in front of me. If that person doesn't take direction well, and not that they don't take it well, if that person needs more information and more details to complete that task, as a leader, I have to make sure that if I can't do it, I find someone in the team that can kind of guide them a little bit more. So do you show up consistently in both your mood and your actions? Another very strong one for leadership. Do you make sure your ideas aren't too overwhelming before you share them with your team? So that is important, because you can't just, throw ideas out there that you haven't thought about. Some people just have ideas. Yeah, you haven't thought it through, and all of a sudden you're creating fire, like
Right.
no
Yeah.
reason.
Oh my gosh, I am such an enthusiast. I am definitely an
That's
enthusiast. An
me too.
enthusiast, yeah. And also, Odina says that she's a controller and an enthusiast. And then
Awesome.
Vanessa said that she is amiable. She struggles with pushback and confidence.
Amiable for sure. Yeah, I couldn't. That's a patient, caring. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely a yellow enthusiast for sure. Any other ones want to share?
I do have a question though. So, someone asked, how do you change the perception that you are unapproachable? The intent and passion is sometimes overwhelming and overpowering to others.
So they feel
I totally
that
relate,
they're,
Susan, by the way. I just wanted to say that. So
yeah,
she's saying that the intent and her passion is sometimes so overwhelming, and that people kind of find her like a little unapproachable.
yeah.
So, she wants to change that perception about herself.
Yeah, I struggle with that as well. And I think that's for a lot of passionate people feel that, because our passion comes off as we're being aggressive, and people don't want to approach people that are aggressive, right? They feel like, oh, we're going to just be reactive and just respond too quickly. So one thing I've done is just to kind of slow down, and even moments where I wanted to interject, I kind of just stopped myself and I thought about how I was going to say it, especially depending on my audience, and be able to say things in a different way. It's not really changing yourself, because I don't want you to change yourself. I'll tell you one thing, you can't teach passion. Passion is a beautiful thing. So if you have that, keep it. However, in leadership, our passion could be looked at as more like we're aggressive, we're
Yeah.
just being so like loud, and really it's just we're trying to share our enthusiasm and our passion about something, and a lot of people don't understand that. So it's definitely working on how you say things and your reaction, because even with our passion, it shows when our body language, right? Even we get so excited and sometimes our voice goes louder, or and they're like, oh my God, why are you screaming? I'm like, I'm not screaming, I'm just excited, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
put across. So I understand that personality very, very too well. So I would recommend, just because first of all, the fact that you acknowledge it, it's important, right? You acknowledge how sometimes you can come off like that, even though you don't have the problem, it's your audience, they just don't understand you. However, if you're a leader, you have to be able to deal with all different personalities. And that's why we went over this the little test here, just to kind of say, which one are you, right?
Yeah, and I would, my recommendation, just, I'm not an expert like Alex is, but just from being that kind of personality, Susan, I totally understand what you're saying. I struggle with it at home too. Like, my family, we're very argumentative, and sometimes I come home and my boyfriend's like, what's wrong with the attitude? And I'm like, what attitude? This is just how I talk.
Yeah,
But I can tell you, in the professional environment, when you're so driving because you're so result oriented, which I am, I sometimes bulldoze over people. So I actually have to make the intent to write that extra kindly and would you please in the email. And just, it seems like a little bit of a push for me and unnatural, but that's okay because the reality is that it's all about perception. I'm not being phony because I'm trying to be extra nice, but I kind of have to try to be a little extra nicer, so I can soften myself up. And then, like I said, my face shows everything. So being aware of like the tightness in my jaw, are my shoulders really tight?
right.
Like I can feel it in my body when, you know, I
Tension.
don't like
Yeah.
something, and
Mhm.
just breathing through that. Friendliness goes a very long way as well, right?
Right.
Like,
And it's healthy. And it's healthy for you, believe it or not, because sometimes I say to myself, and I don't know if you can relate to this, where I'm like, oh, why did I go so much passion? I'm like, God, why did you give me this personality? It's just so big, kind of thing. And you question yourself, like you really didn't, your intentions were so nice. It wasn't really but then you think about like, how did I respond? And you kind of role play, you play back what you just did. So I think what Jessica's saying, kindness, right? That actually is healthy for us, right? If we can put that in the forefront and be a little bit more kind in how we show up,
yeah.
whether it's a little thank you so much in your email, and just kind of soften things up, because they're ready for us. They're ready for us to be
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So no, I get it. But this was a fun exercise just to kind of look at different people. And then in your team, you're going to have these people that are this way. And if you're a different thinker, then no, that's how they're going to respond to you. So you have to be mindful of that, of how other people behave, or they're, because Jessica immediately said, I'm an enthusiast. So she knows that's exactly who she is. Well, everyone feels the same way. Everyone that looks at this knows, okay, I'm more of a controller, and you're more goal driven, you're organized, and things out of place would drive you crazy. You need organization, right?
Yeah.
but you could be a little competitive, right? So it's a really cool exercise to get to know ourselves a little bit more.
So we have a follow-up question to that, and the same registrant said, "How do you be more friendly and kind, but not seem like you're trying too hard to fit in?"
How do you be more friendly and kind? I think you already fit in. You shouldn't ever try to fit in. Leaders, we already fit in. It's just getting people, again, we're serving people, right? It's understanding people and how they respond to you and be able to tweak your level of conversations with them. So I don't think it's that you don't fit in. You do fit in. So that's the confidence side. Don't ever think
Yeah.
fit
Yeah. And
in.
also,
Yeah.
I'd say let go of the result. Just try being friendly and see the response that you get. This is like, it's very gray. This conversation, these ideas are very gray, right? Like, you have to kind of like try it out and experiment and see what works. And it's a
Right.
process. It's not like, you know, black and white, right? There's a lot of
Right.
gray in there. So just try it out, see how you can implement some more kindness, some more softness, some body language that channels that. And then, if it's too much, you bring it back a little bit. If it's not
Right.
enough, you put it in a little more. You know what I mean? Like it's
You're not changing. Yeah, this is not to change who you are, because you are amazing the way you are. This is personal development, and personal development is how can we be a better version of ourselves. We don't want to change who you are. That's your God gift, right? You're amazing, you're talented, you are the best, and you should feel that way about you, and everyone should love you because you believe in yourself. But what we want to do, and that's what leadership is about, is be able to make sure we're serving. That's what we do. We serve others, and making sure different just personalities. You're going to have tons of different personalities, and how do we respond to those different personalities and get them to be excited about because we're, as leaders, we're bringing in, it's our project, but we got to get this done. We're leading. So how do we get people with all these different personalities plus ours to all work collaborative, right? That's the goal. That is the objective. So not changing who you are. We're trying to understand how to fit everybody. It's like a puzzle. How do we put everybody together? And it's personal development. Every day, trying new things, like Jessica said. Try it for, take an inventory of yourself. I take an inventory of myself every single day, because I want to make sure that I show up in my best self every day. Whether it's a meeting or to my children or to this event, me presenting, am I showing up the way I'm supposed to be showing? So we should always be taking that inventory. Things happen. There's a lot going on, and sometimes we don't show up in our best self. But the more we practice and be mindful and aware, we're going to get better and better. And again, it's all personal development. So this is not a change you
kind of
presentation. This
thing.
is
Yeah.
keep you. You're amazing. You're here for a reason. And this is just about,
Adding
let's
on
get
to
better.
it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also, Alex, we should also maybe mention boundaries, because I know, in certain jobs where I was like the most unapproachable, it's because I wasn't taking care of myself in the process. I wouldn't eat lunch, I wouldn't, say no, I wouldn't prioritize. And so I felt kind of like angry within myself, and I was showing it. So it's also, making sure you take care of yourself during this process, right? Because you have to come first, otherwise you
Absolutely.
can't serve anybody else if you're, you know, weathered down. So
Take care of yourself. Boundaries, that's a huge, huge piece, and we all need it, right? We need to make sure that we take care of ourselves, and people need to know some of the boundaries, right? That's so important in leadership and also relationship. Certain boundaries that you just not going to work for you, and it's okay. And that's part of leadership. Those are the tough conversations that you have. So moving on to vision, okay? Good leaders have a vision. Before you take on a property, you should have a vision of how you want it to run. See, to me, without a vision, how can you expect anything to happen, right? We create a vision first, and then we get the people to bought in on our vision, and we start planting those seeds. So I want you to put that word in there, vision, of where do you see you're at right now in your career, um, in your responsibilities. What does that vision look like? And we get to tweak those visions here and there, but let's make sure that's in front of us. Everything starts with a vision. All right. So coaching and building a team to achieve the vision. Individual and team development are important activities carried out by transformational leaders To develop a team, leaders must first understand the team dynamic, right? I make this example every time. My son, I'm a big football girl, so my son plays football. My husband loves football, New York Giants. I hope somebody's out there that loves them, but my son plays football, and every season it's like, oh my gosh, mom, the team is terrible. We're not going to win anything. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You just started. So I share that story in this first paragraph is because you need to learn your team's dynamic, right? And that's what we're talking about. Like, how do people move? How do they respond to you? Who are your top players? Once you all learn to dance together and you understand like the dynamics of the team, that's when you move to the next level. You can't just go into a new property and a new board and think like, I'm going to be good. It takes work. You got to understand the individual. And what do you do to do that is a lot of one-on-ones with certain people, right? Some meetings collectively showing your value, right? Leaders show value to people. What can you do? What you say you're going to do, show up when you're supposed to show up, pick up your phone, answer emails. That is a whole other like presentation on branding, but that's your personal brand, right? That's when people think of you, what do they think of? That person's always going to answer. They're going to show up. They're always prepared. The true leader. So understand the dynamics of the team first before trying to go and fix things, right? You don't want to go there and start. Understand it first, and by good leaders have meetings and understand, okay, how have things been done? Ask questions. What have you guys been doing? And then add, this is what has worked for me. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm so excited to be part of this because I really feel that I can implement some of these things to really get things running a little smoother around here. Again, I'm just, making things up here, but you know where I'm going with it. But having that confidence to come in and say, I want to hear what's been going on and let's see the areas, or even asking questions like, let me ask you, Mr. Board Member, what are the top 3 things that you would change around here? Getting input from people is so important because I bet you what he was thinking about, you were too. But the fact that that person said it, he feels so good to be part of the solution. Make sense? So asking those questions and making sure that you just first understand the dynamics of the team. We got to slow down and move fast, right? So a leader will then ensure that the team members have the necessary skills and abilities to do their job and achieve the vision. They do this by giving and receiving feedback regularly, right? Always being there, showing up, training and coaching their people to improve individual and team performance. And then leadership also include looking for leadership potential in others, which we talked about a little bit. By developing leadership skills within your team, you create an environment where you can continue success long term. And that's the true measure of a great leader. Within your own team, you can pick your leaders, and they don't have to just be one, and then you can empower them, right? That's how you bring people together. And that's how you have this collaborative thing going, because people feel like, oh, I could see that this person has. So understanding each teammate and kind of working together to achieve the goal. To me, I'd rather do it together than come in and be like, it's my way or no way, right? You're not going to get people's response that way. So this is a huge thing here. I hope you guys found this piece valuable, and it kind of maybe hit a nail there. Any questions here?
I don't have questions right now, but I'm sure they'll trickle in.
One of the key ways they do this, so motivating, inspiring people, is just effective leaders link together 2 different expectations that hard work leads to good results, expectations that good results lead to attractive rewards and incentives. Teams love incentives. We all do, right? We work hard because we know we're gonna get an incentive. This motivates people to work hard to achieve success because they expect to enjoy rewards. So there's nothing wrong with creating some incentives and some, and of course, within your guidelines. And then leaders help themselves and others do the right thing. So they set direction, build an inspiring vision, and create something new. So this is really, like I call it, the roadmap to success. Leaders kind of like paint that roadmap to their people. And you do that by asking really where they want to go. Where do you see yourself? And helping them paint that map to success is so important. We talked about, having people in the wrong position. We talked about, someone in the wrong position, but doesn't even know there's another opportunity that they can go into. Well, leaders always make sure that they communicate these things with their team and they feel safe coming to them. And how to put people first in the midst of Christ. This is something I added in here because we just came off a pandemic where a lot of companies, and I'm sure Castle Group had it together, and maybe there's some things that they were missing and they learned from the pandemic. I mean, everyone had to go, virtual, right? Work remotely, and companies were kind of shaken up and they weren't ready for it. And how did you communicate with your team to let them know that, or even your client or your board, that things were shifting, right? People just the world just announces this disruption to you, and how did you handle it? So it can be scary, like it says here, but this is, as a leader, we need to make sure that we're always prepared. If we show up nervous and don't have a plan, everyone around us will feel the same way. So always have a game plan.
I have a question, Alex. Okay, so in a day to day, right? You have like 100 different things that you have to get done. So it almost sounds like leading is its own full-time job, right? So how do you get everything done then? Like, how do you delegate enough so that you can really focus on what a leader does, which is the coaching, which is the development, analyzing, the dynamics and things like that, taking it to the next level. But when you're so bogged down with so much administrative tasks, or a project, or a 558 claim, or 40-year recertification, like, how do you do that? How can you lead, put enough time into leading?
Right. So everyone has different responsibilities when it comes into leadership, but leadership is leading people. That's really, most leaders are leading a team, and you hit it right, Anil. We're going to talk about delegating. Delegating is the most important piece of leadership. There's some things that leaders deal with that they shouldn't even be touching. They should give it to someone else. And one thing that leaders struggle with is letting go, because they're afraid it's not going to get done. And that's why it becomes a full-time job, leading. But leadership should be exactly what you're doing, right? Just making sure that the people that you're leading are doing what they need to be doing, but also they understand your vision. It should not be like, oh my gosh, this is leadership as a role is a job. It should not be that way at all. You're serving people. That's, leadership. So a little quote here: it's okay to admit what you don't know. It's okay to ask for help. And it's more than okay to listen to the people you lead. In fact, it's essential. So there's another piece. Listening to people, you can learn a lot. I mean, a lot of my processes and things that I've changed personally within my own business and businesses that I worked for came from my people. Leaders listen to their people. They're the front line, and they see things that could change or could be better because customers are talking to them, right? So I love that, listening to your people is so important. As leaders, we want to make sure we allow and give permission for our people to have input. So let's recap before we go into the next section. So leadership is proactive, problem solving, looking ahead and not being satisfied with things the way they are. A compelling vision is one that people can see, feel, understand, and embrace. Effective leaders provide a rich picture of what the future will look like when their visions have been realized. They tell inspiring stories. They explain their vision in ways that everyone can relate, right? It's not just for them to relate, that everyone can relate, all different personalities. Transformational leaders transform people. So once leaders have developed their visions, leaders must make them compelling and convincing. We talked a lot about that today. So any questions so far before we move on to the next piece of it? And we're gonna end shortly. All right, so a little quote here: leaders are people who do the right thing. Managers are people who do the things right, right? They're task driven. They do the right vision versus task. So did you know, oops, went too fast. 58% of managers say they didn't receive any management training. So I just put that in there for the reason of how important it is to make sure your people are getting the right training, and they're being supported in their career paths. Very important. So 58%. more than half of the people in management roles have not received any management training. And I know that that does not apply to Castle Group because I see you guys are always training. I'm here now. So I know that you guys are getting a lot of training. Is that right, Jessica?
Yeah, absolutely. And, for those of you who actually do have, management companies, sometimes there's things that you're unaware of, right? Like it's just a matter of reaching out to your liaison at corporate, and there may be things that you can potentially offer your team that you didn't even know you had, as a resource.
Yeah. I can do this class for you in your own business. So I get this a lot. So creating an inspired vision for the future. Vision provides direction, right? When you have a vision, you know which direction you're going. It sets priorities, provides a marker so that you can tell that you've achieved what you wanted to achieve. So that's always important to have that vision. And that's with anything that you are involved in. So managing delivery of the vision. This is an area of leadership that relates to management. So leaders must ensure that the work needed to deliver the vision is properly managed, either by themselves or by dedicated manager or team. So again, that's a little bit delegating there. To do this, team members need performance goals. So you got to make sure, I'm sure this is all internal stuff, the KPIs we talk about. And then leaders also need to make sure that they manage effectively. This helps to ensure that the changes needed to deliver the vision is implemented smoothly and thoroughly with the support that backed from the people in effect. So we talk about people, 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 people. So we serve people, right? Everything is people. And we forget that sometimes, that we're here to serve people. And let's talk about the appraisal summary. This is performance. We talked about this in the beginning of this class, where it's so important to be able to know where you're at. How are you doing? How are your people doing? Do your people know how they're doing? So this is just something that I use. And again, I could share it. I'm sure a lot of companies have their own, but it's important for people to know like what, how they're doing and how they can improve. We're here to transform people. And if they don't know how they can get better every day, how can they move forward, right? So as leaders, we need to help our people work on their skills to get them to that next level in their careers. So it's important to regularly evaluate the motivation levels of your team as well, right? I think we had a couple questions about that. This audit will help you identify which areas need improvement and which people might need more attention from you to get them back to feeling motivated at work. So it is just something I came up. So you put the month, happy, does this person seem happy? This is your own like little internal ownership. What do they have ownership over? Like knowing like what do they, oversee? When was the last time you thanked them? That's important to keep people. We get busy. As Jessica mentioned, we have so much going on and leadership seems like its own like job, but have you stopped to thank people lately? Challenges, what challenges, tasks are they currently working on? Okay, what will you train, coach them next? Missions. So learning what they're currently learning. What are they learning? Are they doing any, continuing education? Are they training? Are they doing anything online? What are they doing to move forward in their careers? Leaders make sure that our people are trained and they're ready to take on new tasks always. Don't let them get bored. Does this person seem a little bit bored? So paying attention to your team is just a quick little exercise. Leadership is hard to define and good leadership even harder, but if you can get people to follow you to the ends of the earth, you are a great leader. Communication, very important. So are you a good communicator? So I don't know if somebody wants to answer there. If there's anyone do you think you're a good communicator? I would love to hear from you. Involving people in your business will encourage them to care more. So it's vital that you communicate well. Like I mentioned, I made that suggestion of when you're with a board member, getting them involved, letting people come, asking them questions. What are your top challenges you see here? What are the top 3 things you would fix immediately? Start by evaluating your current communication skills and decide if there's information you can share with your team that will make them feel more involved. So getting people involved will get them excited to be part of your team. So am I a good enough communicator? Why or why not? This is a little test. Do I communicate enough to people? What information do you already regularly share with your team? Sometimes we share too much and get people all, fired up. And there's some things that we don't need to share, right? So Do I have enough information to tell my team what's going on? Sometimes we do the opposite. We go in and we try to share something, but we don't really have the full story, and we only tell half the story, and then we get people worked up again. So make sure that you have the whole story before you're having a meeting. Could I get more information from my boss? If so, what information do I need? Again, being intentional, how you're showing up. How am I going to share this information? Not just throwing out an email and saying, these are the changes that we're doing for this property. And they're like, whoa, wait, let's hold on. Was that a good way of sending that information? Was it through an email? It should have been a meeting. Like, being intentional how you share and communicate with people to let them understand like there's going to be a change.
Yeah, Vanessa says that she feels confident in her communication skills, and she says that listening is a big part of this too. And I agree, Vanessa.
Absolutely, Vanessa. I love it. So types of communications. I just want to do a time check, make sure I'm not going over. I know we've stopped a lot to answer questions, but I just want to know how fast do I move, and are we still good?
Yeah, we should probably move pretty quickly because we're several minutes over.
Awesome. Okay, so let me just go through this and I'll kind of jump around. So types of communication, there are 4 types of meetings you should have. As a manager, each has a different goal. So I really love this piece here. We spend a lot of times in meetings. I always say you need a meeting to have a meeting, like it's always a meeting, right? So there's addressing the troops meeting, should be short, large number of people, structured, one way, top down, like, that's just pretty, that meeting size increases as you see to your left there. Progress meeting are medium length, medium size group, structured and pressured because we got to get things done, right? Weekly team meetings should be short, small number of people, informal and fun. That meeting there is to really motivate people to get moving with their week. No need to be long and drag them into all the different things that are going on. And then problem solving meeting is long, right? And a small number of people. We don't want a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Then you'll be there all day. And then informal, and it's creative. So this is just, you want to make sure you bring the right people to help you make those decisions. And this can apply to anything. So what kind of meetings are you having? Don't just have meetings to have meetings. Make sure these are intentional, and then you have the right people in your meetings to get what you need to get resolved. Delegating. To begin delegating your tasks, I'm going to briefly go through this. This is something that we talked about earlier. Have a clear idea of all the tasks that you do. List them all, because sometimes we have a lot going on, but we don't even know what a lot looks like. So I would encourage you to write down like the different things that you do daily. List them all down. Decide if it can be delegated right now. If you said yes, choose someone to delegate it to. If you said no, make a plan what needs to happen before you do. So delegating is a big piece of leadership. You can't do it all. We have to trust our team. And I always say the people that don't delegate, they're being a little selfish, because when you delegate, you're really helping people become better, right? If you do all the tasks, give other people opportunity to grow within their careers. So I'm here skipping just a little bit to give. Okay, let's go into little soft skills. We'll close it out soon. All right, so 5 essential soft skills in the workplace. Empathy, very important. Emotional intelligence, which you heard a lot of today. Emotional control, we talked about that as well. Communication skills and self-awareness. So these are the 5 essential soft skills in a workplace, and this should be applied daily. We have to have empathy, emotional intelligence, emotional control. So we're showing up and we're leaders controlling the situation. Leadership
Alan has a comment. He says, he has a little phrase for delegation. He says, delegate or suffocate. We like that, Alan. Thank you.
Can I borrow that? I love it. That's a great one. Leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done, right? Because he wants to do it. That's amazing. Imagine people wanting to do things. That is leadership. Leadership skills are the abilities people have to lead projects, encourage initiatives, build a sense of common purpose, and empower others. I'm gonna recap here. All right, most leadership experts agree that great leaders translate the company's vision into reality, believe in their teams. We've got to believe in your team, have the ability to motivate and inspire others, know how to connect and engage with employees, have a clear vision and know how to effectively communicate it to its workplace, know how to coach employees so they can develop their skills and improve their performance, recognize others' achievements, have empathy, and translate the company's vision into reality. That is ultimately the goal, right? So, all right. So we're at the end here. Have a great have a great understanding of business strategy to know how to communicate with their team, enhance dialogue in the workplace, listen to their employees. Again, listening to your employees is so important. Lead by example, know how to create unity in the workplace. Again, unity is important to bringing people together, not division. Understanding like it's got to get done as a team. That is the most effective teams when things are done together. Encourage open and transparent communication. People feel comfortable coming to you because you're approachable, and you solve problems and you have empathy. Are change rivers. They encourage creativity, innovation in the workplace, include employees in decision making. They effectively delegate, make employees well-being and safety one of their top priorities. Last but not least, great leaders don't fail, they learn. So that's what I said, be yourself. It's a personal development. We learn every day to be the best we can be. So there's a cute little charter. So following Alexandra's leadership course, I will attempt to manage my team and work with my colleagues using the following principles. So actionable goals, a little takeaway. So I hope you have your own, but to keep everyone as informed as possible on current and future events and the rest of the company. If necessary, it will take time to find this information so that they can pass it with the team. Number two, to involve my team in my decisions wherever possible. So important to bring them on board. If they cannot be involved, then explain the reasons behind the decision. Communication, clear and concise. Let people know that, unfortunately, this is just not something I could bring to you. Number four, to allow as many decisions as possible be made by my team rather than just by myself. That's another important piece, asking people to be part of your decision. You will then bring community. To receive problems with a positive attitude when they are reported to me, to give people encouragement even when they fail, right? Always the best lessons come from failures, and great processes are made from those as well. To make sure that my team know that I appreciate their particular special talents and abilities, to let them know that I am aware of the occasions when they go extra and beyond, right? When you see someone go extra, go the extra mile, recognizing it, it's important. It makes the person want to they feel good, number one. Number two, they work harder. So I would take any reminders from my team members that I have temporarily lapsed from the above in constructive spirit, right? In fact, I will welcome them as the means of keeping me on course towards developing better habits. So we're not perfect as leaders. It's a work in progress, right? And we always want to be better. And again, this is not to change you right now. You are amazing. This is just to add a little bit extra, maybe tips to help you become better at what you do. That's what this class is for. We all can use a little personal development. And I'm sure that I hope that you walked away with something today. Any questions?
Let's see here. Odina says, thank you very much. If we can send the slides over. I also wanted to make a point. We didn't consider that maybe there's board members on the call. Right. So if there are any board members, I'm sure there were a lot of things that you can apply and how to, lead your board as well. We find at Castle that usually the best ran associations is when they have a united board and, they're all on the same page. So thank you so much, Alex. This was great.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Yes, and that was a good point. Board members, they have a big responsibility. They got to keep everyone together.
Yeah, and so absolutely reach out to Alex if you have any follow-up questions. And also, if there are any property managers who are interested in an opportunity with Castle Group, please email me at jraffo@castlegroup.com. We'd love to speak to you. We'd love to see, what you've done in the last few years in the market. We have a lot of opportunities here at Castle Group, and we're always looking for good people who like to, self-develop and on their own take these great classes. So if we don't have any other questions, I think we're okay to wrap up. What do you think, Alex?
I think we're ready. Thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Have a
Great.
great
Thank you,
weekend.
everybody. Have a great
I forgot it was
weekend.
Friday.
It's Friday. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
And thank